ancient wisdom to modern grace. India's development, a thrilling chase. Challenges may arise, but hearts beat as one in this symphony of growth under the sun. So let us salute this journey we are on. India's development forever strong. Good morning to all the dignitaries, invitees, professors, delegates, and dear students. I, Professor Vrinda Dave, stand before you today with great excitement as we gather to celebrate the spirit of economics. Gujarat Law Society has been in the field of education for over a period of 9 decades and is considered as one of the largest and most renowned destinations for education in Gujarat. The society stands as a synonym for contemporary education in the region with the emphasis on quality. Its foundations were laid down by the Iron Man of India, Shri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Shri Ganesh Mavlankar, the first Speaker of Lok Sabha, and Sheth Shri Kasturbhai Lalbhai, late Shri I. M. Nanavati, the legal luminary, and other visionaries. Today, the name GLS has become synonymous with education all over Gujarat. It established a statutory private university by an act of Gujarat State Assembly in 2015. GLS University is set up with the vision to benchmark global standards of education and create path-breaking programs in the areas of strategic importance, not only to the country, but across the world. This university is the brainchild of Shri Sudhir Bhai Nanavati, President, GLS University. Since its establishment in 1997, the Faculty of Business Administration in Ahmedabad has been dedicated to equipping students with a comprehensive spectrum of management skills. Our BBA Honors and BBA program goes beyond narrow confines, offering specializations in marketing, accounting and finance, international business, human resource management, entrepreneurship, as well as public policy and administration. And not just that, we also offer a range of exclusive programs, including a 3-year course in retail management, a distinctive BBA plus ACCA program. This wide approach ensures our graduates are prepared for diverse leadership roles across various sectors of business world. It is indeed a momentous day as we commence our event during the auspicious festivities of Ganesh Chaturthi. Let us take a moment to seek the blessings of Lord Ganesha, the remover of obstacles for the success and harmony of this event.
गणनायकाय गणदैवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय गानचतुराय गानप्राणाय गानान्तरात्मने गानोत्सुकाय गानमत्ताय गानोत्सुकमनसे गुरुपूजिताय गुरुदैवताय गुरुकुलस्थायिने गुरुविक्रमाय गुह्यप्रवराय गुरवे गुणगुरवे गुरुदैत्यकलक्षेत्रे गुरुधर्मसदाराध्याय गुरुपुत्रपरित्रात्रे गुरुपाखण्डखण्डकाय गीतसाराय गीततत्त्वाय गीतगोत्राय धीमहि गूढगुल्फाय गन्धमत्ताय गोजयप्रदाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि
Economics, often referred to as dismal science, is anything but dismal when we consider the dynamic landscape of India's economic journey. In recent years, India has been on an impressive trajectory, marked by rapid growth and significant changes in its position within the global economic order. The opportunities on this path are abundant. India's youthful demographic dividend holds the promise of a robust workforce that can drive innovation, productivity, and economic growth. The Make in India initiative has unleashed the potential of manufacturing sector, while the Digital India campaign is propelling India into the age of technology-driven economic expansion. However, with great opportunities come significant challenges. The global economic landscape is constantly evolving, and India must navigate geopolitical complexities, trade dynamics, and technological disruptions. The COVID 19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of resilience in the face of unforeseen shocks. As we gather here today, let us recognize the pivotal role that economics plays in shaping every nation's destiny. Over the course of Ecofest 2023, we will have the privilege of engaging with renowned policymakers, economic scholars, and thinkers, such as yourselves, who will shed light on the intricacies of India's economic ascent. As we explore the theme of India's rise in world economic order, let us do so with open minds, a thirst for knowledge, and a commitment to shaping a brighter economic future for our nation. For the dream of progress, let us all compile. To address a theme, we have amongst us a very eminent personality, Mr. Rajat Sethi. With profound respect, we request our esteemed Dean, Dr. Shafali Dani, to present a token of our highest regard to our distinguished guests, adorning this occasion with grace and honor. With the lighting of this ceremonial lamp, we commence our event, drawing upon the illumination of knowledge and harmony, the belief which makes the impossible possible, the essence which leads us to success, and blessing of which runs the world. I humbly request Shafali ma'am to escort Rajat sir for lighting of the lamp. To discover any opportunity, one needs to be foreseeing or simply a visionary, to someone to run beside you as your guide. This place, as we stand today, is held together by such a visionary. She is headstrong, motivated, and extremely dedicated. She is, in every sense, a true leader. Our very own Dean, Dr. Shafali Dani. Everything that the college is today is the brainchild of her commitment and strive for perfection. I request the Honorable Dean of Faculty of Business Administration to please come forward and address this union.
Thank you, Vrinda. Good morning to one and all present here. Shri Rajat sir, Dr. Jokhi, my colleagues at Faculty of Business Administration and GLS University, dear students, participants, and my volunteers and coordinators. I stand before you today with immense pride and excitement as we gather to inaugurate this year's Economic Fest. We are celebrating Economics Fest for the very first time in this 2023, and obviously what Vrinda ma'am has said during this Ganesh festival. This event marks a significant milestone in our academic calendar, bringing together students, scholars, and experts from various fields to celebrate the spirit of economics and innovation. Economics is not just a subject, it's a dynamic force that shapes our world. In a world that is constantly evolving, economics serves as a compass helping us navigate the intricacies of global market, trade policy, and the challenges of sustainability. It empowers us to address pressing issues like income inequality, climate change, and poverty eradication. More than that, it is our country's economic policy which, as of now, is setting new benchmarks in world order. Today, as we embark on this journey of knowledge and exploration, we are indeed lucky to have with us a young, optimistic, and dynamic economist, Sri Rajat Sethi, who has kindly agreed to elaborate on opportunities and challenges that India encounters due to its emergence as a formidable economic power. Amidst all economic gloom looming large in the Western world, Rajat sir considers India a shining example of hope. Thank you, Rajat sir, for giving time and be present to just discuss with the young minds. I extend a very warm welcome to all the participants who have come from across the state. Let me tell you, this fest is not just a platform for competition, it's a forum for collaboration and learning. It's an opportunity for us to engage in stimulating discussion, exchange groundbreaking ideas, and find innovative solutions to some of the world's most pressing problems. Once again, I welcome all of you to GLS University. Hope you all will enjoy the competition and you will gain something out after 2 days of this Ecofest. Thank you once again and welcome all of you to GLS campus. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And now comes the man of the hour, the focal point of our discussion, Mr. Rajat Sethi. Rajat sir is India's leading political commentator and public intellectual. He has over a decade of experience in shaping public discourse and setting political narratives. Rajat sir has served the political advisor to three chief ministers of Indian states, Jharkhand, Assam, and Manipur, assisting the heads of state in policy matters concerning internal security, political economy, and development at the rank of Minister of State. Sir is a regular TV commentator sharing views on diverse subjects of politics, strategic affairs, and economy. He is also a columnist with India's leading news dailies like NDTV, Hindustan Times, and the Indian Express. Rajat sir is a public policy graduate of John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, a management graduate of MIT Sloan School of Management, and an engineering graduate of IIT Kharagpur. Rajat sir has worked as visiting senior fellow with globally leading think tanks like India Foundation, Observer Research Foundation, Stimson Center, focusing on areas of foreign policy, security strategy, and international trade. He is currently serving as the president of the Aravali Forum, a leading public policy think tank based out of Delhi. I request Rajat sir to please come on stage and grace the event.
A very warm good morning to all of you. It's such a delight to be present at the GLS University. I have heard so much about, the excitement, the student community out here. It's absolutely a delight to be here. First of all, I wanted to thank Dr. Shefali Ghani for inviting me. She is a true beacon for leadership at this university. She has herself been leading a lot of initiatives, and she's been pursuing us to enlighten the student community in this university multiple times in the past. And I'm really grateful for the kind of vision and leadership that she's providing to the university. So thank you, madam, for that. Really appreciate it. Um, my thanks to all the faculty members who are present here, who are much more experienced than me intellectually. But I really appreciate all of you taking out time. And to my young friends, today I'm going to talk about the India's future journey over the course of next 25 years. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities before our nation? And you, each one of you out there, is going to play a pivotal role in charting out the future course for our nation. The presentation that I'm going to give to you today is the same presentation that I have given to some of the top CEOs of our country. Typically, CEOs are handling big companies which have a turnover of 10,000 crore rupees annually plus. So, what you're going to today see is something when they have a leadership conference, just like all of you have, each company, big company in India, also have leadership conferences because they also want to imagine which way is our country going. Is it worth investing in our country or not? How do they convince their board members sitting in the US and elsewhere around the world? How to convince them that India is the right country to invest in, and this is the opportunity which everybody is looking forward to. Therefore, I will not get into too many technical details, but I will at least allow all of you to understand how India is progressing and what are some of the immediate challenges before our nation. So, I don't want to go too much into history. We all know that India's potential historically has been significant. If you were to measure 1,000 years back, before the external aggressors started plundering India, capturing India, and setting up empires in India, before that, India's economy, if you were to measure in today's rupees, today's currency, would run into $1 trillion. So imagine the prowess where India was called a golden bird. There was a reason to it, right? We had abundant natural resources, we had abundant mineral resources, and we had the entrepreneurial zeal, and we had a historical civilizational state, so to speak, and a proud Indians we were. But systematically, for past 700 years or so, our confidence was literally crushed after repeated onslaughts from foreigners coming in, capturing our land, subjugating us. They convinced us that we are second class people in our own country. That is why, it is still taking us considerable amount of time to look eye to eye to the global competition that we face. Systematically, we, the people of India, our confidence, the backbone of our confidence has been crushed. But India is changing. India is a pivotal point when all the young faces that I see, the amount of confidence that I see in each one of you. When I used to be in college, we hardly had that confidence that all of you share today. So there is a marked difference over the past 15, 20 years. If you look at when India got its independence in 1947, our per capita income back in those days, for 1 year, it used to be 250 rupees. From there, our journey started. We were a poor, ravaged country, plundered by the British, who had taken away important resources from us and pushed our country into repeated famines. If a proper Oscar grade movie has to be made, it should be made on Bengal famine. More than 30 million people were killed because of an artificial man made famine state was brought in, unleashed upon the state of Bengal. You should read about Bengal famine. It was Professor Amartya Sen's PhD work, which ended up, he ended up publishing a lot of research papers around Bengal famine and eventually won the Nobel Prize. All his work, his life's work, has been centered around Bengal famine. That was the state of affairs in 1947, what we inherited from the British. Very low per capita income. Do you know our life expectancy in 1947? It was 34 years. So it is not, it doesn't mean that 34 years, when our life expectancy was 34 years, that we were dying at 34. No. Too many of our children were dying at a younger age. This is why the average was such that it turned out to be 34 years. So we had or infant mortality rate, child mortality rate very high. In a public health, it's a public policy question. When you have to measure how good a country is, how good our future is, you measure metrics like CMR, which is child mortality rate. You measure IMR, infant mortality rate. If you do not have good public hospitals, if you do not have good access to primary health, secondary health, tertiary health, you end up losing your children the moment they are born. This was the fate of our country. 34 years. Remember this. That's how our journey started. For the next 10 years, we were busy fixing our population exchange challenges because our country were partitioned. Individuals like me, our forefathers had to leave, their houses in Pakistan, newly created state of Pakistan, and come to India, totally culturally uprooted, coming into India with nothing to look up to, no job opportunities, nothing at all. Our 50s, 1950s was utterly wasted in this exchange of population. There were massive communal riots, no prospects of growth, a country which was doomed to fail. That is where we started. Fast forward to 1960s. By then, we had already faced one war with China, two wars, by the way, with Pakistan. We had depleted our resources. We had no foreign reserves with us at all. And we were a bankrupt nation. We did not had enough food to feed our population. That was in 1965, 66, when first time our public policy people started thinking that if we don't do anything at this stage, this country will disintegrate. This is how the Green Revolution, the amount of political will that had to be shown to unleash an industrial scale revolution, which turned out to be named as Green Revolution, was actually started. It was by God's grace and a lot of luck that we succeeded in Green Revolution. We were able to at least fix one problem before our country, that we should produce enough food to feed our mouths. That is the first thing by grace of God we were able to achieve. That we are not dying hungry, because otherwise we had to beg for wheat, we had to beg for vegetables, and we had a begging bowl in front of every other country the way Pakistan has today. That was our state of affairs. Move to the next decade. In 1970s, we started limping back to normalcy. We started seeing some growth. Although that growth was so abysmal that people used to mock that this is the Hindu rate of growth, because Hindus' TFR used to be, total fertility rate used to be 2.8% or something like that. And our growth rate was also that. So this is why it was called, this is the Hindu rate of growth. While all of this was happening, certain miraculous things kept happening alongside. It was also Prime Minister Nehru, his vision that we need to, in spite of the fact that we were struggling to feed our population, we need to continue to invest in technical education. He established Indian Institute of Technologies, 4 5 of them, by international help. We did not have the resources. I remember my IIT was created by Russian help. IIT Kanpur was created by German help. IIT Bombay was created by American help. So we took money from outside, technical expertise from outside to develop some of these state of the art institutions, hoping that someday these engineers who will come out, graduate out, will build the foundations of our country. It takes, imagine a country so ravaged and the leader of that country having to struggle with all of these issues and still persisting with his vision. That is what Prime Minister Nehru did for us. 70s, 80s, we kept languishing. Our country still had a lot of internal challenges, which, by the way, have still not been fully addressed. Those challenges kept pulling us down, kept binding us to 2 to 3% growth. We were never able to take off. In 90s, the situation was so bad that economic liberalism had to be brought in. Radical public policy shift had to be brought in. By the way, Pakistan did its economic liberalism even before us. They were a far better country, economically speaking, than India. All these decades. They had access to fertile land. Their agriculture was performing well. They had substantial foreign reserves as well, far better than us. And they opened their economy before India did. A lot of text of our economic liberalization that happened was a copy-paste of Pakistan. So understand that, the dire situation around which Prime Minister Narasimha Rao had to reform the country. They were deep socialist thinking people who were at the political helm of affairs, who still believed that the communist approach to statehood, communist approach to policy making is the best form of policy making. In spite of failing for 50 years, they still had the confidence that this is the only way forward. During that phase was a man in the land of Gujarat who had a very different outlook. I'm talking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Back then, when this communism, the cloud of communism on our collective thinking was so strong that any political leader who used to come out and say that profit making is good, wearing good clothes is something to be proud of, to be confident of. No political leader ever had the confidence to see Indians in a light that we can be a prosperous country, we can dream to be big. It takes a significant zeal. If you remember those television programs, every politician was in a competition to look poor, to be able to relate with the common masses. Nobody had a radical approach the way Deng Xiaoping or the way Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, Deng Xiaoping of China, were trying to envision, craft a very different trajectory for their countries. It took Prime Minister Narendra Modi, back then just a common political worker, to constantly work hard, toil hard, gradually go up the ladder, political ladder, to be able to become the chief minister of the state and bring his thinking to practical terms. Another 10 years he had to prove that what he thinks is correct. It takes a lot of, there were so many people around the world, not just in our country, to pull him down. Everything that he did was seen as radically different approach from the mainstream thinking of New Delhi. But he insisted, persisted, ensured that Gujarat would be a beacon of hope in this country, which is being pulled back in a very socialistic approach of a mixed economy. So, when we were in college around 2004 to 2008, we as middle class students started having some glimmer of hope when companies like Infosys were born. Imagine before 2002, 2001, the only prospect for job was government job. Even at IITs, all you could do is either research, go outside, leave the country, or end up in a government job. But you people can't relate with this. But I can tell you, when we were in college, Infosys used to be like a dream job for students. At least there is one company where you don't have to have a reservation policy, or you don't have to go through typical means of a sarkari attitude. You had a truly global company giving shape to the vision and dreams of every Indian. Gradually it deteriorated and became a body shop of sorts. That's another story. But at least Infosys, Wipro, TCS, all of these companies were the first glimmer of hope in a country which was just moving out because of liberalism. It took us another 10 years post Infosys era to develop and inculcate a culture of entrepreneurship, to create a startup nation. Now, building startup nation is not easy. How do you infuse? There is no injection out there, right? To put entrepreneurship zeal in all of your minds. It takes a very different approach. It was Prime Minister Modi who occupied office, started looking at public policy figures around the world. He figured out one gentleman, he was a minister in Malaysian government. Very interesting ministry. His ministry was called the Ministry of Transformation. What did this ministry do? This person who was the minister there was a former Malaysian Airlines CEO. He was brought into the public policy realm and made a minister by the then Prime Minister of Malaysia. He started a very different approach. There is a Princeton case study on that. All of you interested should Google that up. Ministry of Transformation. They adopted a very radical approach to policy making. What they did was they used to get hold of a minister and his bureaucrats, lock them up for 72 hours inside a room. He used to sit with them, the concerned minister, and they used to radically think very transformative, very different ideas. And his bureaucrats used to write the budget of each of the programs. They were forced to think out of the box. Otherwise, in government, it's all incremental thinking. Last year budget was 1 lakh crore, today it will be 1.2 lakh crore. There is no zero budgeting sense that is there in public policy. But he started attacking one ministry at a time, used to lock up, do aggressive brainstorming, and come out with very interesting ideas. Prime Minister Modi was the chief minister here. He invited the Minister of Transformation from Malaysia to come down to Gujarat and understand what is this ministry about. He was the first one in the whole country that this is another approach to pull the bureaucrats out of their comfort zone, challenge them, force them to think creatively. Otherwise, typically, I have been in the government for 8 years. I can tell you, government is one place which shuts down all creativity. The processes, the file movement, it's just so jarring that you end up just not thinking. You're like, "Kaam chal raha hai, jaise bhi chal raha hai, it is okay." That should not be an approach of a young country like us, right? We need radical thoughts and fresh ideas. It was he who started thinking. Then Ministry of Transformation gave him the idea that we need a National Institute for Transforming India, which actually became Niti Aayog. That's the transformation. He said Planning Commission has had enough. Ultimately, Montek Singh Ahluwalias of the country, these kind of economists which held economic policy making by the neck, they did not allow states to freely think. They used to think from an armchair that what should India do, which state should do what. How does Montek Singh Ahluwalia sitting in New Delhi understand every nook and corner of the country? The priorities of every nook and corner. What does he know about Northeast? What does he know about Gujarat? What does he know about Kerala? No man can be a superpower to understand the complexities of our country to its finest details. This is one problem that came out. He therefore transformed Niti Aayog. He did similar such exemplary public policy initiatives which became the bedrock of the last 9 years that we have seen. Tremendous growth. India's confidence is coming back. That is the single biggest thing. If you're not confident as a country, you can't aspire to be a global power. It's as simple as that. The biggest thing that I think what we have achieved collectively is restoration of confidence. He also has started off a very, very, focused approach before our country. What Prime Minister Modi is saying now, we have had a very tragic economic history of our country. But now we need to be focused. Like a CEO who has corporate every quarter, he needs to present a report card to the investors, to the shareholders. Similarly, as a CEO of the country, he should have specific targets to achieve. This is how $5 trillion goal for the first time was put before the country. Otherwise, we were all shooting in the blind. We were not too worried कि अच्छा develop हो गया तो ठीक, नहीं हुआ तो भी ठीक. Who is going to pull our neck around economic targets? But he had a different approach. He said that let us fix targets. Why does anybody have to dream of 2047 sitting in 2023? What is the need? But he says that if you do not have any target, something that you cannot measure will never be achieved. You need to be able to consistently measure how you are performing against your own goals to be able to perform. This is how the idea of Amrit Kal came about. He said that we have a 25-year journey. I'm going to now deep dive into the presentation why these 25 years are so critical for us. Why did he talk about 25 years? He could have also talked about 100 years, etc., etc. So I'm going to deep dive. But he said by 2047, India has to be a developed country. Period. No other goal. No other geopolitical goal before us. No diplomatic squandering or wastage of time. The goal is clear before our country. And he is trying to drill down this goal in every Indian out there. Economic development and ruthless economic development is the only objective before us. Everything else can wait. As a country, we can solve all of our problems as long as we are rich. So this is the focus with which I will now start, because these are all the positives which have happened in the past decade or so. And you people, all of you are incredibly lucky to be living in a time which is full of optimism. We did not share that. We used to be on the streets protesting against Nirbhaya case or protesting against all the harakiri that UPA governments were doing back then. It was a very stifling moment. As young students ourselves, we used to feel frustrated that why are the political leaders of our country not able to understand our vision, our language, our aspirations. But things have changed now, so that's why I say you are lucky. However, with opportunities comes challenges, right? Amrit Kal is an envision of a vision. It is an articulation of a vision. India today is shining example. We have successfully organized G20. Everyone, I was in Singapore, I was addressing a bunch of investors who want to invest into India. All these investors are managing $10 billion plus of wealth. These are the treasuries that they are handling, never traveled to India. They've never been to India. They're like, India doesn't have any opportunity, but now everybody's thinking very differently. Ray Dalio, I don't know if anybody knows, he's a classic investor, one of the biggest hedge fund managers. He says that India is today where China was in 1984. In 1984, China was just about to take off. The leader of China was Deng Xiaoping, a massive reformer. He was obsessed with reforms. He changed the entire approach of Chinese thinking. At a time, he was purged by Mao, completely eradicated from the political scene, but he re-emerged. When he re-emerged, he said, do hell with Mao's thinking, we will march forward. We will take up the best practices of around the world and we will incorporate in China. This is how 20 years of ruthless growth of China resulted in where China is today. All Deng Xiaoping's vision. If you should read one person, it should either be Deng Xiaoping or Lee Kuan Yew. Anybody who wants to know about public policy, these are two eminent figures that you should read about. Ray Dalio said that Modi is Deng Xiaoping of India. And India now is where China was 1984, about to take off. The amount of growth that you will see, all these investors that we are meeting are carrying those bag full of wealth coming into India. That's what is about to happen. It will disrupt our economic lives. It is going to disrupt every approach that analysts around the world had about India. India successfully mitigated the challenge of COVID. It provided international leadership to all the southern countries, which is called Global South. All African countries, all South American countries look up to India as their representative. G20 was extreme success. Everybody started, people say that what is their G20 is just by rotation, etc. Every country had the chance of doing G20. But it was run of the mill G20s. India, you need to have a vision to be able to understand, okay, fine, it has come by rotation to us. But this opportunity will come 20 years from now. Okay, so India would be a different place in 20 years from now. So you utilize this opportunity today, because all of these 20 top leaders who are coming into India are not coming alone. They're coming with their teams of investors, teams of industrialists looking at India in a very different light. We spent 2,000 crores in G20. Certain people in the opposition, brainless dimwits, they don't understand what does 2,000 crore do. 2,000 crore is almost peanut in an economy of size of India. But they need to understand that this 2,000 crore is an investment in our foundations of projecting India. If you hire a PR company, don't you pay them? When you have a publicity opportunity to present India in a glorious light before the world, why would you want to miss that opportunity? That requires a vision. And this is what we saw in G20. Not just that, look at India's economic powerhouse we've already discussed. India is the 5th largest economy, fastest growing G20 country, and something that Ray Dalio also says has the maximum potential to grow. One thing that Prime Minister Modi also talks about is that we just don't want development. We want a development which carries the ethos of a civilizational state. If you forget your roots and you grow blindly, you will copy the West. Because success is there, you will start imitating the West. And you will become a Xerox copy of the Western countries. With mindless consumerism, mindless technology, all trying to infiltrate into your daily lives. And then you will eventually become a broken state. Rootless, visionless, not able to understand where you come from. And it will all be where we are seeing the Western economies around the world suffering. So India's geo influence is also increasing, which I've discussed most of these points. But while India is doing exceptionally well, this is the perception that the world still carries of India. There are a lot of New York Times and Washington Posts and all kinds of international influencers who don't want India's rise. Understand one thing, international relations. I am a student of international relations. The world experimented with China. They were benevolent with China. They allowed 20 years of growth to China without questioning. Now they are scratching their head. We have created a monster. We don't know how to tame this monster. For 20 years, they had a silent, gradual growth. The world literally gave up all its manufacturing abilities. Just sent everything to China. Structurally, the West collapsed. There are no economic structures left other than printing dollars, lending through China, China being the biggest debt holder of the US, and you end up outsourcing all of your economic activity to China. Chinese kept doing that, kept taking advantage. For 20 years, they kept growing at 8% plus. Now it is a behemoth, which scares everybody. They don't want to repeat the Chinese mistake. Therefore, we are at a juncture where India thought that we will also reap the benefits of globalization. We will also, become the economic or the manufacturing powerhouse of the world the way China was. But that's not going to come easy. If we have started thinking to be Atmanirbhar, every other country has started thinking to become Atmanirbhar. Plus, alongside this, as I said, peaceful rise of India is in nobody's interest. International relations now has become a zero-sum game. Do you know what a zero-sum game is? It is a game theory principle. It says that rise of one country is seen as at the loss of other country. Net effect is zero. So India's rise will come at the West's cost. So let us not allow India to rise. Therefore, India will not have that window sweet spot to smoothly rise without the world noticing. This is why you will consistently see attacks on India. What happened in Canada just yesterday is symptom of what exactly is going to happen over the years ahead. Everybody, look at BBC documentary. BBC, out of nowhere, 20 years forward, Supreme Court has rested the riots in Gujarat case. We have proceeded through the legal jurisprudence system of our country at the very top. All right. Still, BBC has the notoriety to come up with a documentary on 2002 riots. Can you imagine? Why would they do that? Deep down, if you were to dig, you will understand that Huawei is a Chinese company, telecom giant, who is the biggest funder of BBC now. Over these 20 years of China's rise, China has gradually, captured boardrooms, editorial boards of companies and printing newspapers, etc., around the world. They have peddled influence even inside universities. When I was at Harvard or at MIT, there were chairs dedicated to servicing the Chinese. We used to face that challenge. All the good research that used to happen were not for it was funded by US public, but for Chinese benefit. So they were able to, crawl and create space for themselves. But we will not have that opportunity, so to say. Therefore, in an international relations setting, which is very different from the past 20 years, we will have a very different set of challenges before us in the next 20 years during Amrit Kal. Please understand this. This is a very important point. We will be accused that there is no human rights. Our democracy is not a democracy. They have coined a new term. There's a think tank in Sweden which says that we are electoral autocracy. I don't know what that means. These two words, oxymoronic words put together, saying that India, there are elections, but it is all farcical. As if Sweden has a better way of approaching to governance. Only 10,000 illegal migrants entered into Sweden. Sweden is up in arms. There are riots in Sweden every day. And their think tank is lecturing us on how to rule and govern. These attacks will happen before our country. Prejudices will be created. We will be forced to fight among ourselves by reports on religious intolerance being published by American think tanks. They want us to be distracted. Prime Minister wants us to be focused. That's the difference. Okay, this is the point that I wish to highlight, that these are the set of challenges. Short-term outlook, I'll just point to one sort of an outlook, which is around revenue economics. Prime Minister has touched upon. In the economic journey of the next 25 years, one biggest impediment that I see, I have worked with at the helm of affairs in several states. Several of our states are bankrupt. Our country is doing very good, so the federal level things are very, very good. But individually, states are all bankrupt. Maximum. They don't have the resources. But since they are not innovative, it's not like Gujarat. I mean, sitting in Gujarat, you have a very different worldview of India. But go to other states. They are economically very badly managed. You have ample resources here. But go to Rajasthan, neighboring state. Financially bankrupt state. Why? Because of this culture of constantly freely distributing, winning elections by distributing. This cannot be, this is a lazy thinking, lazy approach. If you can't win elections based on good governance, you say that, okay, fine, I have not done any work for 4.5 years. Last 6 months, I will only distribute. The chief minister, sitting chief minister of Rajasthan, what does he say? You know why I'm telling this? I'm not going to be partisan here. You vote for any party, I don't care. But understand where our politicians err, where they do mistakes in public glare. He says that I'm going to distribute 200 units of electricity free. He is already doing that. And he said that further 200 units, I'm going to give at 50% rate. Who is going to pay that money? He will win his election. He will fill his own coffers. But it is the end public which suffers. Now, he says that Somebody from the press, he questioned him that Rajasthan is our discoms in Rajasthan are all bankrupt. Who is going to pay for this subsidy? He said that, oh, don't worry, Rajasthan discoms have been bankrupt for 55 years. So they'll be bankrupt for 5 more years. How does it matter? So this is on record statement, by the way. Can you imagine? Can country be led by such kind of a lazy approach to policy making? How can you think like that? Don't you want your discoms to come out of years of stagnation and provide electricity? Today you can play with fire. Tomorrow it's going to bite you eventually. When you will not have enough power to even give to the legitimate industries to create jobs, it's a cycle. That is poor economics, and this is what Prime Minister has been alluding to. Even states in southern India, Andhra Pradesh, they had a new capital dream that you want to set up a new capital called Amravati, wasted so much of public money in acquiring land. They just kept acquiring land for 5 years. This is the reason why Chandrababu Naidu lost the elections, because they wasted money without a future. So Prime Minister Modi is saying that biggest impediment for the next 25 years is these irresponsible politicians of all hues and colors, including the BJP, by the way. When they see Congress doing something, they also try to copy, because they will lose the election otherwise. They lost in Karnataka because of this. So they are also worried. So PM has given a cross-party line, a bipartisan approach that revenue politics, economics is wrong, should not be our economic thinking. And this is an important immediate term impediment before us. Another thing is, I'll speak for 5 more minutes. International, these think tanks and all, their roles. Recently, Hunger Index was published. India was deliberately put below Sri Lanka also. We are literally giving them $4 billion worth of direct cash aid, plus all the grains that we had. We opened it for Sri Lanka. But still, we are below Sri Lanka in the international index. All deliberately done. In Press Freedom Index, we are below Afghanistan and Taliban. So, I mean, people who publish these reports, don't they see the index? They very well do that. They're not fools. They are PhDs and all of these, like investing enough time in doing these indexes. But the challenge is that their paymasters are controlled by forces who do not want China to be seen in good light. When investors see investors, when they look at these reports, they're like, oh, maybe if we invest in India tomorrow, there is some kind of a public outcry, because press is not free. Then our money will be stuck in India. What will we do? This colors their thinking minds. This is why these indices are very important. We can junk it, throw it in the dustbin, but certain people, important people, don't. That's the unfortunate part. So we have to, in the immediate run, also try and address this problem as we march over the next 25 years. Some of you who will eventually become public policy, important thinkers, leaders, will end up working with some of these Moody's kind of credit rating agencies or these index firms. You should try and change the culture. I'm going to skip all of these. These are technical details. These are meant for business people. But if you were to look at the long-term approach, the 25-year approach, this is what was articulated in India's budget this time. Our finance minister, Nirmala Sitharamanji, she elucidated that this is the vision in real terms, what it means to step into the Amrit Kal. When she said that we are stepping into the Amrit Kal, green growth is the foundations of it. She says that 1 trillion worth of value has to be created in India alone, just because of the economic opportunities in climate change. Climate change and green growth is going to be rewarding for India in many ways if we are smart about it. So a lot of public policy students who are interested in that subject area should look at climate change as an important opportunity for future jobs. And this is going to be very promising in days to come. We're about financial sector, I've already discussed, there is enormous opportunity in infrastructure. Our national infrastructure pipeline is worth 100 lakh crore rupees. worth of investments which are going to go in. 100 lakh crore, which is almost like a 1 trillion US dollar. That's the amount of investment which is going into only in infrastructure sectors. Can you imagine the number of jobs that would be created? Although I was having a discussion with India's 1 and 2 businessmen, I'm not going to name them, but the top two, we were discussing, both Gujarati origin, by the way. So we were discussing this about this 100 lakh crore infrastructure pipeline. So he jokingly said, if these 100 lakh crore are left for the government babus to handle, they will take 30 years just to write the tender for these. 30 years. Because who is going to otherwise spend this much? I mean, if the government has to do bulk of it, there's only one process of doing it, is writing tenders, issuing tenders, then the tender process, and this and that. He said that we do not have enough state capacity. I was really very surprised when he talked about state capacity. At Harvard, one of the first courses in public policy that was taught was called state capacity. They said that if you want to do any public policy in any country in the world, if your state's bureaucracy, the state's capacity, not just bureaucracy, by the way, there are many people in the state. Even teachers are also part of the state. If the state's capacity is not to understand public policy questions, what will you do by being a scholar of public policy? You can't do anything. You can't implement any policy because they will rubbish it or they will not be able to execute it. Therefore, improving state capacity is of fundamental importance if you have to practice public policy in any country. So he also pointed out from a practitioner standpoint, I came in from an academia point of view, state capacity is very important. Therefore, if you to grow, that remains a pivotal point. These points have been touched. Deng Xiaoping and Lee Kuan Yew, both of them had 20 to 40 years of stable rule. No political experiments in both the countries. This is how this country grew. We are lucky that we have had stability for 10 years. Hopefully, if we have political stability of whichever color party comes, irrespective of that. But if we have stability, only then we will be able to attract the big bucks from around the world into our country. So political stability should not be taken for granted. People out there who want to take that for granted, they want perpetual turbulence in our politics, is not the way forward. I've touched upon these things. And last, a few issues which I wanted to highlight, that in these 25 years, this is the last slide, by the way. In the 25 years, we know there are promises. India will, by and large, be top 2 or 3 economies, would be a developed economy if everything goes good. But where are the fundamental challenges? We have 25 years before 2047, 24. Today, our per capita income is $2,100, $2,000 approximately. China is where? We both started almost together. They got independence in 1949. The communist rule was established in 1949. We got in 1947. We were largely going together till 80s when Deng Xiaoping happened to them and they took off. We didn't had our Deng Xiaoping then. So we kept, khichdi sarkarein aati rahi. We kept dragging on. Their per capita income is $12,000. We are at 2,000. That's the difference. Only in a span of 20 years, all damage was done. Now today, if we grow at 8%, year after year, every year at 8%, for the next 25 years, our per capita would be $12,000 in 2047, where China is today. And if we grow at breakneck speed, that's where we will be, without any distractions. So far, in the history of mankind, no democracy or no country has grown consistently for a period of 25 years with a pace of 8% year over year. Nobody has done it, not even China. So assuming that we will be able to grow without any distraction is a tall ask. There will be distractions. Russia-Ukraine war, for example, is a distraction. There might be China-Taiwan war, which will be a distraction. There'll be Chinese, pinpricks on our country, which will distract us. There will be internal challenges which will distract us. If you see at some of the internal challenges, technology, I mean, who's talking about a big tsunami of technology coming in? Artificial intelligence alone is a Goldman Sachs report which is going to remove or kill 300 million jobs by 2033. 10 साल से आप लोग तो you'll be in the workforce then. Have you started thinking that, how does you foolproof or future proof your jobs? Start thinking about it. India is thinking that we will be developed country, we will create enough jobs for our population, but we have never accounted for this technological onslaught that is coming onto us. How will we prepare ourselves for that? So these outlier events can happen anytime, right? Another piece of demography dividend was being talked about at the onset. Today in the world, there are 5 factors of production. Most important is innovation. Innovation doesn't depend on the size of your population. A small country can innovate and create huge economic dividends that just by having sheer number of 1.4 billion people doesn't matter. Okay, so we have to continuously innovate. But demography dividend, even if we understand that this is the economic policy dividend that is there before us, but don't forget, India is also aging. Our total fertility rate, at least the Hindu total fertility rate, it is at below replacement level, it is 1.98. So it's below replacement. Replacement rate is 2.1. But as a nation, we are still almost at the replacement level. Our median age today is 28. In 2040, our median age would be what? 38 to 40 years. When your median age of your country goes beyond 40, you are considered an old country. Old countries don't grow. It is a race against time. When Prime Minister says about 25 years, he's talking about this golden period where it is literally race against time. If we do not grow fast enough before we grow old, if we do not become a developed country before we grow old, what we will end up in economic terms, it is called a low income trap. You should research about this. This is an economic concept which is called low income trap or a middle income trap. Malaysia, it was an Asian tiger. That's the name of Malaysia, right? But it nosedived and fell into a middle income trap. It was about to become like America, like a Western country, very prosperous, very rich. But it grew faster than it could grow. It grew old faster before it could grow and ended up being in a middle income. Nobody talks about Malaysia anymore. It's not a economic power to reckon with. That's what a typical classic example of a middle income trap is. India cannot be a land of poor people and old people, because we will not have resources to support the social resources to support a poor population to feed them and to the old population to provide pension, right? Therefore, this window, why Prime Minister talks about 25 years is that this is the only time, if we enter into a trap where we are old as a society and not growing and not innovating. Old people don't innovate. It is the young people who innovate. This is all established norms. We will not have these opportunities ever in the future. All the demography dividend that we are going to talk today and over some certain more years will become a liability for us, and we will not have enough solutions to solve that. So therefore, when he says yahi samay hai or sahi samay hai, it has profound philosophical, deep meanings, which each one of you as a public policy student should know and understand. Have a sense of anxiety that we have to not relax that India's everything is happening, but each one out there, every one of you has to be a responsible citizen. Each one of you is a stakeholder as well as a beneficiary of India's growth story. Therefore, the onus is on you. Our leadership, political leadership, have passed the baton on. We have reached to a level where we are about to take off, but nothing is cast in stone. It's a responsibility which will be passed on to all of you, and you will have to do the heavy lifting for the next 25 years. So that's where I will pause. Thank you so much for your time.